Background. In 1983, the sleepy beachside community of Manhattan Beach, California, became the epicenter of one of the most bizarre and sensational legal battles in American history. The McMartin preschool trial. The case began when Judy Johnson, a concerned mother, accused a teacher, Ray Buckey, of molesting her son at the McMartin preschool. This single accusation quickly spiraled into an avalanche of increasingly outlandish claims, with more than 360 children eventually alleging that they had been sexually abused and subjected to satanic rituals by teachers at the school. The case took on a life of its own as children told stories of secret underground tunnels, blood sacrifices, and even witches who could fly. The public, already on edge due to the growing fear of child abuse and satanic cults, watched in horror as the media fed the frenzy. What followed was the longest and most expensive criminal trial in US history, ultimately leading to the acquittal of all the accused. But the questions remain: was this a case of mass hysteria, or was there something more sinister at play? Argument for mass hysteria. The McMartin Casebook is a textbook example of how mass hysteria can take hold of an entire community, even an entire nation, and distort reality beyond recognition. At its heart, this was a perfect storm of fear and flawed psychology, and the media feeding the frenzy that whipped the public into a panic. The initial interviews with the children were conducted using highly suggestive and leading questions, which psychologists now recognise as being capable of implanting false memories. These children, eager to please the adults questioning them, began recounting fantastical tales that grew more elaborate with each telling. Claims of underground tunnels and satanic rituals, all of which were later debunked, emerged from these interviews, not because they were true, but because the children were essentially coached to say what the interviewers wanted to hear. As these allegations made headlines, the public's fear and paranoia grew, fueling the satanic panic that swept across the United States during the 1980s. In this climate, reason was abandoned, and mere accusations of such heinous crimes was enough to convince someone in the court of public opinion. The McMartin preschool trial then wasn't about uncovering the truth. It was about assuming the assuaging the community's fear by finding a scapegoat. Arguments for a satanic cult. On the other hand, one could argue that the McMartin case exposed something far darker than just collective paranoia. The existence of organised and sinister satanic cults operating right under society's nose. While the idea may seem outlandish to skeptics, considering the sheer number of children who independently described similar experiences of abuse and satanic rituals, could all of these testimonies have been fabricated or the result of suggestive questioning? Or did the children reveal a hidden truth that society was simply too terrified to accept? The dismissal of the satanic cult theory relies heavily on the lack of physical evidence, but absence of evidence does not always equate to evidence of absence. Satanic cults, by their nature, operate in the shadows, meticulously covering their tracks. If such a cult existed, they would have gone to great lengths to ensure that no concrete evidence was left behind. The repeated reference to rituals, underground tunnels, and animal sacrifices was consistent across many children's testimonies. Hint at the coordinated, secretive operations rather than a random series of events. Moreover, the timing of the allegations corresponded with the broader cultural moment when the idea of satanic rituals was gaining prominence, not just in fiction but in real-life reports from various parts of the country. The McMartin case, far from being an isolated incident, might have been one of the few times that the veil was lifted on the hidden world, only for it to be dismissed by society that couldn't or wouldn't accept such terrifying reality. So the cats are fighting, it's distracting me. Stop it! What was that? Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's just a little bit a bonus bit here. The argument for real Satanists conducting satanic rituals. For those who believe that the McMartin preschool case was more than just mass hysteria, there exists a compelling though controversial argument that real Satanists were indeed conducting rituals as described by the children. This argument hinges on several key points that suggest something more than mere paranoia was at play. Consistency in the children's testimony. Despite the flaws in the interviewing techniques, it's important to note that the children's stories had remarkable consistencies, independent of one another. Many children described similar events, including the existence of secret underground tunnels, specific rituals, and even those of symbols associated with satanic practices. The fact that these accounts were so consistent, even among children who had no contact with each other, raises questions about the possibility of a coordinated effort to keep these stories quiet. Could all of these children have been so thoroughly influenced to fabricate the same bizarre and specific details? Historical and cultural context. The McMartin case wasn't an isolated incident. During the 1980s, there were numerous reports of alleged satanic ritual abuse, SRA, across the United States and other Western countries. While many of these cases were dismissed as part of a satanic panic, it's worth considering that some of the reports might have been rooted in real events. Cults with dark ritualistic practices have existed throughout history, often operating in secret and evading direct detection by law enforcement. The widespread nature of these allegations during this time period suggests that something was going on than just a series of unrelated mass hysteria. Something more was going on other than a series of mass hysteria. The lack of physical evidence could be explained. One of the major points against the existence of the satanic cult at the McMartin is the lack of physical evidence. However, it was considered the possibility of a highly organised and clandestine group. It's plausible that they would have taken extreme measures to hide their activities. Tunnels, for example, could have been expertly concealed or filled in after the alleged events took place. Additionally, the absence of forensic evidence could be attributed to the cult's meticulous attention to cleaning up and leaving no trace, something not uncommon in criminal organisations. Eyewitness testimonies from adults. While most of the focus was on the children's testimony, there were also adult parents and some former employees who claimed to have witnessed and experienced strange occurrences at the preschool. These testimonies, although less publicised, include the odd behaviour by some of the accused, unexplained events at the preschool, and even sightings of individuals who were not associated with the school but were lurking around the premises. These testimonies, when considered alongside the children's stories, lend credence to the idea that something genuinely sinister was happening. The role of law enforcement. Critics often point out the extensive investigation found no physical evidence to support the satanic rituals. However, it is possible that the investigation was flawed or even deliberately suppressed. Law enforcement at the time was not equipped to deal with allegations of this nature. There may have been a reluctance to pursue leads that would have implied powerful or dangerous individuals. The notion that a satanic cult could have exerted influence to protect itself from exposure is not beyond the realms of possibility, especially if members were connected or adept at evading scrutiny. I don't know, I'm struggling to read this so much, sorry. In conclusion, the idea of a satanic cult operating out of a suburban daycare may seem far-fetched. The consistency of the children's testimonies, the historical context of similar allegations and potential for evidence to have been meticulously covered up, and the testimonies of adults all provide a foundation for believing that something real and dark was at work in the McMartin preschool. While we may never know the full truth, dismissing the possibility of a satanic cult outright ignores the troubling details that continue to haunt this case. So, what do you think? Was it just mass hysteria, or was there something else going on? Do you think there really were Satanists operating in this daycare? Let me know in the comments section, and we can talk about it if you want. But, you know, like I always say, you've got this far. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Bye.